G'day and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Nick Hovey.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Enduro for their ongoing support in bringing you our live weekly Q&A. Tonight we're doing something a bit different with our guest being Daniel Camilleri from EK Kelpies and Hooked on Hounds. Dan will be picking what he thinks is the best question from the night, and they'll win a bag of Enduro high-energy food for working dogs with real kangaroo meat. How you going?
Good evening, Dan.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Good, how are you?
I was going really well until I just took my head out on that lamp when I went to check on my dog outside. So yeah, got a bit of a ding in there now, but this is already a bashed up head, so it's all good.
Is the Sparky coming tomorrow to raise the lamps up?
No, I think I might have had a growth spurt overnight. I'm to take my Crocs off next time, and I'll fix straight underneath the lamp.
Oh, you've got the platforms.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I got the high ones. Yeah, special order.
Yeah, nice. So, tell us a bit about yourself, Dan, and like where you're from, what your story is, and yeah, let's get started.
No worries, mate. So, first of all, thanks for jumping on tonight and doing this for us, Nick. Been really looking forward to it. So, that's
my pleasure.
Cool. Cool. So, mate, I grew up in Western Sydney, in Blacktown. My parents are still there in a little 3-bedroom home. We're fortunate enough there that we had a lot of farms and not what around us back then. It's all houses now.
Yeah.
My grandparents were actually family friends. My grandfather was a pigeon racer and had a heap of birds. My love for birds there. My other grandfather actually had a cattle feedlot, and he bred Rottweilers back in the 80s, and then followed by like Alaska Malamutes, Beagles, and then got back in the Rottweilers in the 2000s before he got a bit older and started to downscale everything. So I spent a lot of my time, all school holidays, on the farm there. He leased another 100-odd acres behind him as well. That's all back where Oran Park is. That's all houses now as well out there. So I suppose that's where my love for animals and dogs comes into it. So I've been around dogs my whole life. And fortunate enough that, when I wasn't playing soccer, the old boy would take me hunting a lot. I've got a cousin that's a really good pig hunter, really good with a dog. So I spent a lot of time with him. And I remember I didn't go to my Year 6 formal, and I actually went Walgett with my dad, my cousin, and an uncle, and we're under the stars. And I look at them all, and they go, "You'd be at your formal tonight." I go, "Yeah, but this is heaps better." And
nice.
Just watching dogs, the way, just it was never about, about killing a pig or whatever it may be. It was about the find. You have this pup from 8 weeks old, and you spent time with it, and it might be, 10, 12 months old, and jumps off the back of the ute on scent and will run through livestock and past roos and bats and whatever may be out there just to catch that scent of a pig, And I'm not talking a couple 100 meters. We'd run trackers. Back in those days, there was the old koala trackers. You used to have to open them up and like dip, 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 with a little needle before we went to GPS. Kind of like dip, 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 like that, but more like tingy. Same.
Yeah.
And I could literally tag and release every pig we ever caught. It was never about the hunt. It was more about just educating that young dog. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And then I was a sales rep and away a good majority of the week, and then I'd come home and I'd go hunting again. And the ex-wife didn't really find that too amusing, so I stumbled into working dogs, and the rest is history, as they say.
What about work?
Work as in what I do now?
Or sort of what you've done, and how you ended up to Hooked on Hounds, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. My grandfather told me I was going to be an auto electrician, and my cousin was going to be a diesel mechanic. So I done the good ethnic thing and done what my grandfather said and become an auto electrician. So I done that and finished my apprenticeship, and I specialise in heavy vehicles. So I specialise in earth moving equipment, and then I kind of fell into a role as a product support rep with earth moving company, and then fell into sales, and then into major accounts, and I kind of floated around with a lot of bigger companies in earth moving equipment. So like your Komatsus, your West Track, your Caterpillar, your Yanmars and Kobelco and whatnot. And kind of just worked my way up all until a couple of years ago, where I finally got the dream job I wanted my whole career, and realised it wasn't for me. And,
Yeah, right.
yeah. So I was lucky when I done that. I kind of just walked away and I didn't have a job, and I hitchhiked with dogs for 4 weeks, and I didn't have a vehicle either. So I'd go to one mate's place, and my dogs were pretty scattered then as well. I had a bit going on, so a lot of my mates took my dogs on, and I only kept Mo at home and Ned. And then, so I just went from one, well, Laura and Marie actually took me down to Benny Costa's, and from there, we spent the day there, and I went home and spent a few days with Nick, and from Nick I went to Pumpers, from Pumpers I went to Dave Motley's, and we went up to Nyngan, and
Dave gave you a car to come home.
Yeah, I got all the way to Ruger up there at the pub, and we come back to Nyngan for a few days, and then Dave gave me a car, and I got back to Chris Egan's for a few days and hung out with him and hung out with Pete Rutherford.
Yeah, cool.
Back was about 4 weeks and kind of thought about what I want to do, and when I needed a dog community, how they were there for me. So we got back. Laura and I actually started Dog Talk, and we got in the magazine then as well. And then I got back into earth moving for a little while, and I wasn't enjoying it. And that's kind of when Muster Dog was happening, and I could see a lot of dogs around here, and I thought, wow, there's going to be a lot of dogs without homes. So we got into, Natalie liked my smile and moved down from Tyree Station up in Torrens Creek. She's probably
you're a lucky man
than me anyways, but so she come down here and we started Hooked on Hounds. So I suppose basically, we do a little bit of herding and whatnot for our city slickers and people that want to get into trialing. But a lot of what we do is rehabilitation of like reactive dogs and aggressive dogs. The scarier the better. Just most of them are just reactive because they're scared, So it's just breaking down those walls. Like I've got one here at the moment. You couldn't handle him a week ago. He just wanted to kill me, and I've just fed him out of my hands for a week, and that's the only place he's got to feed, and made a bit of a job for him as well. And you get up in the morning now and you just watch his dog jumping on the kennel and wagging his tail, and that's going to help probably save a dog and help someone's life. So that's pretty cool. I enjoy that.
Yeah, so you see that as a challenge too. Like you said, the scarier the better. So you set yourself a goal and hit those challenges and.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. So there's so many different ways to approach those dogs. No different to children. We spend a day a week down at Rough Track, and I look at a lot of the kids that we work with, and they're no different to a lot of these dogs. Like they lack structure, you know, and just giving them a bit of structure, and it's amazing that when we have structure, how our behavioural patterns shift, and looking at different ways to accomplish that with not only every kid but like every dog, because every dog's motivated by something different. You just got to find out what makes them tick.
Yep. Can you tell us a bit more about your involvement with Rough Track?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough there that they contacted us earlier this year looking for someone to come down and do some sheepdog herding, and I had a couple of people through my name up. Tony Mulvihill, one of them there, and Farmer Dave got in contact with me, and we thought, let's go down and meet these guys and the kids and see what it's all about. And I grew up. A lot of people ask me why I do it. I grew up in Western Sydney, where a lot of these kids are from, and I was actually one of these kids. I was just fortunate enough to go home to really good parents, but a lot of my mates didn't. Some of my mates lived with aunties or uncles or siblings, or some of them even just drifted. So that's why I suppose that it's pretty special to me. So we just go down there, do a bit of sheepdog work. Sometimes it might be a bit of obedience. It's basically just being a mate to a lot of these kids and just hearing their stories and letting them out as someone out there to listen. And, sometimes it might not even be working a dog. It might just be sitting down and having a chat for a little while. But it kind of strikes home because, a lot of those mates I talked about earlier, when I was growing up, I don't know where they are now. So if we can help save it, I will redirect a couple of young fellas now. Well, it's worthwhile, right?
And just have, they've got then people that actually respect them and want to help them, as opposed to, the darker alternative, just going, well, you're a delinquent and throwing him in a lockup or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's some fantastic people down there helping these guys. It's not just Dave. There's Dave, but he's got a whole team behind him of youth workers and even admin staff there that push the barrow and are real supportive of these kids and just being a shoulder for them. Making them feel important.
And how do you find the working dogs? Your kelpies and you going down and helping. How do you find that changes their path, or does it?
Yeah, I think it gives them some accountability. It's no different to having a young dog. And, one of the first things I do when a young dog, I have a pup in the kennel there and it starts to go off its head is I tether it up underneath my bedroom window, right? And it's accountable for its own actions. If it hits the end of that chain, well, it's accountable for that. If it tangles itself up, providing it's not injured, I'll leave it there to think about it for a bit. And it's these kids are the same, right? They're given jobs like if it's not sheepdog herding, they might be doing metal fabrication. So they've got a job, and those things actually they get sold as well. So if they don't put anything into it, nice chest there.
Sorry, I didn't turn that light on. It was too dark.
No, that's cool. So it's a lot of the stuff they do. Whether at the moment they're making turtles and toolboxes and just things that can get sold. So if they're putting time and effort and care into it, well, they're actually raising money for their own program. So I believe giving them a bit of accountability helps swing them around.
Yeah, and that's actually Karen Higgins asked that question.
Oh, there you go.
Coming after I asked. So yeah, that's Karen's question.
Yeah, cool. Go, Laura.
I was just going to say, have you sort of ever, other than your earth moving and your auto elec and now hooked on hounds, have you ever thought of doing anything else?
A few years ago, someone asked why I wouldn't be a dog trainer, and I laughed at them.
I think that was my mom.
I said, "No, I'm not good enough for that." And honestly, even when I was advised to start this business from a local dog trainer here, who's probably one of the best guys I've ever seen with a dog, and I'd say to him, "No, I'm not good enough." And then he took months for me to actually have a crack at that. Got to the point where he said, if you don't quit your job, I'm going to ring your boss and have a proper chat to him and quit for you. And he really backed us, and he gave us a heap of work to start with as well. That's a mate of mine called Bear. Fantastic with a dog. So I suppose dog training did ring a bell. The other thing I would have loved to do in summer would be water skiing schools. That's one thing I'm an avid water skier. I love it when Danny Kerr gives me a phone call anyway. And
I'm not too sure that you're the best teachers, though. I still haven't gotten up on the ski.
Yeah, it's all about technique and timing, right? We're still working on that. And we've got to get out there, right?
Yeah,
Exposure.
that's it.
Yeah, Danny's got to get
my white legs don't really like the sun, so
it's warming up now, guys, and the daylight's still there for a long time. So surely Danny's going to get his boat out soon enough.
Mind you, the Hawkesbury's still pretty dirty and
I don't know.
Not great to ski on. Apparently,
I don't know. I'd want to ski on it with all the
rubbish
in it.
Washed
down there in the last couple of years now.
We'll come up to Wyangler.
Sorry.
Come up to Wyangler. Drag Danny in his boat up, and happy days.
Might have to now.
There you go.
We might have to pick Nick up on the way.
Yeah, there you go.
Easy. So Danny, what breed was your first dog, and who was it? Was it a working dog or?
Nah, so I mentioned before my grandfather had a cattle feedlot and Rottweilers. So we actually used to, well, I don't know whether we used them or they just tagged along and joined in. We used to actually use them to move cattle.
Yeah.
And back in the day, he actually had pigs as well. And they actually saved his life a few times there, where big boar would come at him, have him cornered in a pigsty, and a couple of dogs come in. But my first dog and obviously we had a lot of dogs growing up, like at home, bull terriers and cattle dogs, and I think there was a shepherd in there for a little while, and there was a red cattle dog there for 24 hours, but it decided it wanted to pin me down on the floor as a kid, so Mum made sure that Dad got rid of that one pretty quickly.
Yeah,
cool. My first dog that was actually mine, my 16th birthday present, was a Rottweiler by the name of Jessie. I actually have her great granddaughter underneath a rock here, so we had that genetics around for a while. And the old boy, I don't know how he done it, being a dad now and, kids playing T-ball and you're out every weekend, and he done that for 12 years with me playing soccer, but not just soccer, he used to take me to obedience school like me and my dog to a local obedience club. It was probably half an hour away, and then actually then a closer one. And you'd take me there. I think it was maybe a Wednesday night every week. So I'd go there and train her. And there was an older bloke across the road from my parents' place that had a Kelpie, and he used to give me pointers. And I already knew all the stuff to do, what to teach dogs what not to do, like chase chooks and cows and maybe the odd horse here and there. But I suppose Jessie was my first dog, and learned plenty off her.
Yeah, cool. And how would that, she then not being of what we would classify today as a working breed, how has that then helped you develop your skills for your Kelpies and now that little collie you've got?
I'll be honest, my first working dog was a dog by the name of Leroy. It was a silver Kelpie, or fawn,
Leroy Jenkins?
Leroy. I don't even know why I called him Leroy, to be honest. But I can't remember. Anyways, I got him. We had a couple of French Mastiffs here and a Rottweiler, and my kids, Faith, just started to walk, and I always wanted a Kelpie, so it looked like a great excuse I'll get a dog that's only a small one for her, right? We all know it's more for me, but that's cool. We can live with that, right? I quickly learned that everything I thought I knew just went out the window. If I was tough like I was with my cousin on the hunting dogs, the dog just didn't have the temperament to take it. And I quickly learned that something has to change. So I at that time I probably had about between goats and sheep, I probably had 40 head of livestock here, and this dog would just go missing, and I'd go be calling and calling and calling, and he'd be down in the bottom paddock, and like we're only on 15 acres here, but he'd have him right down the back corner, just ringing them and ringing them and ringing them, and it'd always be when I was running late to work, and I'd be screaming and screaming. I'd go down there and I'd grab him on the lead, and I'd yank him up, and I was just, it wasn't working. I could tell I was just breaking his spirit. And we're down at the river once there, and I was seeing this lady, this young girl walking through with a young Kelpie, and I was there with the whole family. And I went, and I let Leroy off the lead, and he went and played with this pup. And we got talking to this girl, and she said, you should come down to the Hawkesbury Sheepdog Club. So anyways, I went down there, and I learned a bit there. But what that did, they gave me access to a lot of other trainers. And I remember one of the first schools I went to was the Coxie School, and I had another dog there, Ned. And I learned plenty there. And he asked, you got any plans to trial this dog? And I went, no. Anyways, it was only a few months later. I messaged him, said, do you reckon I'd have a crack? And he goes, yeah, have a go. And Morris was here and around the corner, Morris Mather, and I went there and I put him around his course. Morris goes, have a go. And I went to a trial, and that was it, hooked. So, I suppose to answer your question there, mate, from where I started to when I got my first working dog, I kind of had to do a bit of a flip. And then now in the business I've got now, I've had to really, really flip again, to really make dogs fall in love, build rapport really quickly. You just got to, we use a slip lead here. That's our tool. And it can be used as a tool or a weapon. And I don't want to go around and just dictate to dogs because they're only going to give me a bit of themselves. And I don't want that. I want a dog that wants to work with me, not for me. So really refining. And we're refining every day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you're starting out and you went down to the club, was there anyone that really inspired you to go further with it? Or was it just your own personality?
I'll be honest. I was down at the club and I was training one day and someone said to me, so are you going to trial? And I said, no. And they go, so why are you wasting my time? And I went, wow, wait a minute. I got inspired very quickly when I heard that because I'm the kind of person that loves to take a challenge on. So that inspired me very quickly. So I can't even remember who that was. And if I could, I wouldn't say anyway.
No.
I reckon I could know because I was part of that club once, so I reckon I know.
I reckon you're probably wrong. But that inspired me quickly. And then I suppose in terms of, is there someone that's inspired me? Well, I've had a lot. I've been lucky that
definitely Mum and I have
spurred
on.
Obviously, I hate talking, and I've made a lot of good friends. And I've gone and seen and spent time with a lot of people. Like Mick Hudson and Morris Mather was great for me. Robert Cox, but all those people out trialing as well, like your Kevies, your Chris's, your Steve Waymans, but not even just the experienced people, the people less experienced. Good bunch of mates there, like Chris Egan and Pete Rutherford and Paul Adams and Nick Foster and Pumper and Fletch. Like, we'll just go and spend a weekend training, and everyone just feeds off each other. But also just watching total beginners and just seeing something they do, and they don't even know why they've done it, but it works. And you go, oh shit, maybe I could try that next time. So I suppose I'm inspired by everyone that actually gets out and has a crack, and not only in the trial grounds, even if it's someone that we just talk to about dogs in general. Like, I'm a dog perv. I can talk to people about dogs. Like, literally, Nat gets sick of me talking about dogs.
Dogs and excavators, mate.
Oh, I'm a bit over the diggers these days.
So if there's a huge list of mentors that you've got. So it's, just rattle off for us a few of those, like, and obviously not limited to, a few of those men or women that have really inspired you as mentors and who've helped you along your journey.
I suppose, are you talking like senior people, I suppose, in what we do?
I wouldn't use that term just because I don't want to offend them by age. But people that might have been trialing for a fair while and been mentoring you. Yeah,
so obviously I mentioned Morris there earlier. He was always good to just go, hey Dan, try this, or come over anytime. First working dog school I ever went to was Robert Cox, and he really got me thinking about being in a dog's head. I never really thought about that. Like, there was an interview there he had, I think it's on ABC, whatever it's on, and I remember him saying, like, when he sends that dog over the hill, he wants that being that dog's head still. So that was a big one. Mick Hudson was massive for me, just teaching me how to work stock properly, And I remember on the way to first time I met Mick, I actually stopped at the New South Wales Yard Dog Championships at Wellington, and I won the Encourage there. And when I got to his place, he goes, "Congratulations, Dan. I'm not going to be able to teach you anything in the yards." And I said, "No, that's all good, Mick. You got to get the sheep or whatever stock it is out of the paddock into the yards before you can work the yards." And he goes, "We're going to get on fine." And that always rang with me. And just, I suppose, everything he's taught me outside, I just apply into the yards. It's no different. It's just a smaller space. And then, like I said, there's so many more, like Chris Stapleton, Steve Wayman, Michael Johnson, anyone that's actually ever judged me and then at a trial and then given me advice afterwards. I think that's massive. We were down here at the Sydney trial the other day, and Nick Foster in Judge Encourage, and just about after every run, I was judging on the other side, but just about after every run, I seen him talk with the handlers. And I was just like, I used to take so much away from that, because, I remember people doing that the same. I remember Chris Stapleton really clearly once before a trial, he goes, in a final, and he goes, "Mate, you got this, you go all right." And my final run was nowhere as good as my first run. And he turned around and he goes, "Dan, that was the same sheep that broke on you 5 times, and you've done the same thing 5 times." And I was like, oh shit, I did too. I just, instead of letting my dog work, I just was trying to run the show for him. And just advice like that. I suppose that anyone that's actually judged me has probably been a good mentor. Yeah, cool.
So we'll get into a little bit about your dogs. What have you got here at the moment? And I'm here. I've been outside this afternoon, and there's a whole range of them. So
my dogs are just all. There's about 20 dogs. 20 dogs here at the moment.
All breeds.
There's shepherds, collies, kelpies, mastiff Dane, wolfhound boxer, Catahoula. That's the one I want to take my face off. That we're the mates now, so that's cool. There's a few here. In my team, actually my team's a bit disjointed at the moment, because Mo got hurt the other day and sold Scout at Carcore, and I got a young bitch on heat, so I've got a few young dogs getting run. But I suppose I like my kelpies. But in saying that, I'm not dog racist, so I do love a good collie as well. So I've got a young collie pup there as well. So, geez, you don't want to go through all of them, do you?
No, there's a few there now. I think about it.
Yeah. So I suppose
But just your main
a couple of
dogs.
main dogs. So Mo, he's a pup that I bred. Probably wouldn't suit everyone when he was younger. Probably even not now, but that's okay. He doesn't have to. He was just a nutcase, but he's really matured with me. And the thing I love about that dog, like I've won 3 sheep trials with him and yard dog trials, and he's only just become an open dog this year. He's had a few novice placings and maiden placings though.
We used to call Dan when we were traveling. Mum, Dan, and I'd go everywhere. We used to call him 1 point kelpies because we'd be there all day, and we'd like Mum and I bombed out well and truly. But you know, Dan would be like first or second round and sitting there like in the final. The last 4 dogs had come out, and he'd lose, like not get in a final by 1 point. And we waited there all day. And we're like, we could have been home like 5 hours ago, but anyway.
Yeah, that happened pretty often. So there's Mo. And the thing I love about Mo is his ability to read stock. Like, it doesn't matter if you've got something flighty there or something that needs a bit more. He has got a little bit too much eye, though, and that's okay. We get around that. But, yeah, so there's Mo. He'd been my favourite. I got Trick. So she was the first Kelpie pup I trained when I kind of had half of an idea. So
you had a quarter of an idea.
Oh, maybe less than that again.
Yeah, right.
But you know, while she's got her faults, her biggest attribute is her attitude. She just doesn't quit. She's just always there, and we'll just always have a go.
She's probably got the most buttons on her too, wouldn't she?
Oh, she's definitely my most trained dog, but she kind of needs that because she's probably not my most natural dog either. I've got a Mo daughter there, Isla, who I really like. She's 14 months. Scout, I really liked Scout. I sold Scout at Car Call last week. Still mixed emotions about that, to be honest. But I wanted to put out a good starter dog, something I'd train, so something had to be sacrificed. I've got a young dog there by Capri Red. He's only 11 months old, so he's going well.
I love how you have to ask me that question.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. What else have I got? I've got a collie pup there. It's about 4 months old. She's really nice. And I've got another pup there by Trick. He's 12 months old, and we'll see how he goes. I've only had him for about a week or two, so that's about my team at the moment.
Yeah, cool. So, what are you hoping to achieve with the team? Like, sort of all aspects of trialing, or try and sort of focus on yard and cattle, or what's your goal?
Yeah, my end goal is I want to be able to go and get anything out of my kennel and be able to go to a 3 sheep utility, yard trial, cattle trial, go muster some goats, or old mate down the road has his bulls out, go and get his bulls, help him get his cows in. If a mate goes, hey, can you give us a hand for a couple of days, and I've got a couple of quiet days here, head out and do that bit. Kind of like the unicorn, that we all want. But in saying that, every unicorn is going to have its fault, right? So if I can have something that in my team that can cover something else's fault, that's kind of what I'm aiming for. And I just want something I can basically get out of kennel and be proud of, and have a crack at anything.
Yeah.
So you're not working your dogs every day in a farm situation and such, but you are working your dogs every day in a different sort of style. Do you want to sort of go on about that a bit?
Yeah. So my dog's pretty different like that. So obviously, like, we're getting stock in every day if somebody wants to come and do some herding or whatnot. So they've always got access to stock, but my dogs are normally watching other people work stock or playing fullback, and something gets loose, they're playing fullback and covering and keeping them together. The other thing my dogs do, and Scout was really good for this, is really big in rehabilitation of other dogs. So I might march a reactive dog. I might work with a reactive dog here, and then I'll have my dogs around, and I might march a reactive dog at my dog, and this dog can want to kill my dogs, and I just want my dogs just to stay firm, just sit there. Most of that time, that's up at a height. So on I've got a couple of like electrical cables, so the drums, the electrical cables come on. So I just sit my dogs there, and my dog's job is just to sit there, not react, and just trust that I'm not going to let the other dog get to it.
Yeah.
And then having a conversation with the other dog is, mate, you don't have to be scared of that dog. It's not going to hurt you. Keep moving. And that might be at first just sitting there, but then it might be applying more pressure. So getting my dogs to bark while I walk that reactive dog past and asking it not to react. And then eventually getting on the ground with that dog and just working around it. So that they make really good pillows sometimes for lunch break. And they're just good mates. Like, I can literally take my best mates to work every day now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm with my dogs every day. It might even be school drop-off, for example, or pick-up, or I take a lot of dogs to T-ball training or T-ball games. Even take our clients' dogs there. All our clients give us permission to take their dogs off site. But yeah, my dogs they're used for a lot of different things now. And sometimes I'll probably throw them in the deep end as well. Like, you know, they might not do anything from cattle in 6 months, and then a neighbour's cattle will get out, and I'm asking my dogs to. It's some pretty wild country when you get in the back here, like cliffs and whatnot, in the back of people's properties, some gullies, and I'll be in there and I'll think my dogs aren't. This isn't what my dogs do, but they're always there just to help, regardless. And they don't go sit back on the truck. If I'm in there and getting chased by a bull like I did earlier this year, my dogs were there with me, all right, and they probably really saved my bacon there. So yeah, I'll probably push them a bit sometimes out of their comfort zones. But all I want is them just to be there with me, just a bit and have a good attitude. Just have a go.
Yeah. But if you're not pushing them out of their comfort zones to an extent, you know, you're probably not challenging them and taking them to that next level either.
I've got a saying here, and that's about like exposure. You know, you got to expose. You know, if you couldn't swim and I dropped you in the ocean tomorrow, you're probably going to drown. But if it can get you to put your toes in the water today, get you in the shallow end tomorrow, by the end of the week, get you treading water in the deep end, well, and maybe in 2 or 3 weeks you can swim laps. If you get dropped in the ocean, you could probably live, right? You could probably tread water and survive. But if you've never exposed to it, and then testing yourself as well, how do you know what you're capable of?
Yeah.
So what are you looking for? Like, what style of dog are you sort of after? I know you want the all-rounder, but what are you sort of looking for?
I like a dog with a bit of feel and grip. But I suppose if there's one thing that I've, especially this year, has changed, and I think sometimes we're always evolving with what we like, but attitude, to me, like, attitude's number one. Like, you don't have to be the best at something, but be willing to have a go.
Is attitude different to temperament?
I think they kind of go hand in hand a bit. You know, like, for me, I find like the real natural types, when I say they're off in temperament, because as soon as you start to ask them to do something that they don't want to, they're like, oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah, their attitude isn't right.
Correct, right? Where something that still might be a bit natural, but has a good attitude that's just willing to please, will still have a go, even though it's out of its comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, so if I'm asking something that's paddocky and floaty a bit to come in, and it's a bit natural, or its temperament's a bit off, and it goes, no, I don't want to come here. I'm out here, or I'm gone. Whereas if it's got a good attitude and wants to be your mate, he'll trust you that bit just to come in a bit. And you only need to take a step or two the first time, right? Then you can work on it.
Yeah.
But if it's never got that attitude to have a go, well, you're always going to struggle, or you've got to find another way, and it's just going to take a longer process.
Yeah. And how, do you find that, like, the way you build your bond with your dogs and teach them to trust you, do you find that has a play on an attitude? Like, do you think you could change a dog's attitude in time?
With a lot of patience. To what degree? Oh, I don't know. I'm probably still in the air about that. But I do believe you can change the attitude a bit. It's kind of like, so I reverted back to some of these kids we work with, right? Some of them are actually good kids, but their attitude is, I just don't want to have a go. I don't want to have a go. But as soon as you get them to have a go and you like, if you can just get them to take that first step, well, then suddenly, that's actually not that bad. And even sometimes that might be with the dog. Like, for example, we've got an A-frame out the back here, right? There's a bit of agility equipment. and I'll have a dog on a lead, and I go, "Come on, mate, come up." And he goes, "I don't want to come up." All right, now, if that's a dog I haven't built rapport with yet, I'm not going to make that dog go over that A-frame. If that's a dog I've already got rapport with, I go, "Mate, I know you can do this. You need to believe in yourself. You can do it. Let's just come up." And most times, 9 out of 10 times, the first time you take them over, then all of a sudden they go, "Oh, that was great," and they love it, and then I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
So I think, with building getting a lot of confidence and rapport, you can swindle attitude, but it's definitely a character building exercise.
Yeah. So
Yeah, cool.
There's a question here from Nat, and she's asked,
"Oh, this is going to be good."
Hey, after training your own Rottweilers and Kelpies, how has your knowledge of training a dog progressed when you started training other people's dogs on a daily basis?
Oh, good
Careful,
question. If I'm going to wash the dishes.
Yeah. Actually in the dishwasher tonight.
I've already loaded the dishwasher. I'm a good partner. Yeah, I suppose when it's kind of like working with your own children compared to somebody else's, right? When you're working with your own children, you can be a bit more firm with them. But if you're working with somebody else's, you kind of got to dance around the edge sometimes. And it's no different here, right? Like with my dogs, they're my dogs, and I've got a rapport with them, so I can kind of ask them to do things. And if I know they're not giving me their all, I can kind of push them that little bit to get a bit more out of them. But you can't really do that with somebody else's dogs, or you have to be careful the way you do that, especially with the society we live in these days. So I suppose you've got to make it a little bit theatrical at times, and to a degree where you're actually making it look like, well, not look like my whole philosophy on the way we train dogs here is getting them to make the decisions. Sometimes they don't want to make those decisions. So getting them to make those decisions makes them a bit uncomfortable. So if you can make their owner feel comfortable that you're not applying too much pressure to that dog to do it, everyone's kind of comfortable. Like, does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
Where I'm going with that?
Do you think a lot of that, though, are you finding if the owners have trained and started their, whether it's a little sausage dog or a chihuahua, like I know you haven't had them, but
heaps of sausage dogs.
Yeah, there's 2 here in the house.
There's 2 here now. I've had a run of sausage dogs the last month.
But are you finding if people aren't not starting, but building that bond with their dogs correctly, that it then is harder for you to train them?
The client said to me the other day, "Oh, how many good dogs do you get here?" And I went, "Well, if they were good dogs, we'd be out of a job."
Yeah.
All right. And I said, "Do you mean obedient dogs?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah." And I think, 100%. If people put the right foundations on, it would be easier.
But you wouldn't have a job.
Correct. And we were at Carcore the other day, and I got speaking to this chap, and during the demos, and he asked what I do for work, and I told him, and then he said, "Oh, what's the biggest problem you see that people have with pet dogs?" And I said, "I can't put that down to one. I can put it down to 2 key things for me." And I said, the first of all is treating dogs like dogs and not people. And some of that sometimes is teach your dog to be bored. Let it sit in your crate or in the back of your ute and or in their kennels and say, "Mate, don't bark. It's not acceptable." And the other thing is consistency, sending the same message all the time, right? And I think where a lot of people struggle, they actually don't know their dog because they're so busy trying not to train the dog in front of them, but making it be someone else. It's be like, we'll get a heap of dogs here, and it's, for example, "Oh, Rex never had these problems, but little Jet here does. And Jet does this and Jet does that, and Rex never done it." Yeah, that's all cool, but you haven't got Rex. You got Jet. And you probably forget that Rex was 12 years old, but 12 years ago, you probably had similar problems that you do with Jet now, right? But how about working on that?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I probably went a long way around there.
Yeah, a little bit, but it made sense in the long run.
Cool.
I think something that you just touched on there, like teaching dogs to be dogs, like, and it's okay to be bored. I feel like we as humans need to relate back to that as well. Like, it is okay to just sit there and do nothing and be bored, because then your mind sort of starts to think after about 5 minutes, but
absolutely
we don't do that. Hey, like,
well, I'm no parent by any means, but a lot of kids are overstimulated. which is why they become naughty. And I think as people with, I've now just introduced a dog into the house, and it's so easy to overstimulate them.
Oh, it is. And we obviously get a lot of families here with these dogs that they can't control or going a bit nuts, and that's okay. That's why they're here. They're here so we can help them. And they might rock up with their kids, and the first thing they do is throw an electronic babysitter in front of them. Right?
Yeah.
One of these things here. Right? One of them or an iPad. When I was a kid, it was sit here, keep your mouth shut, your eyes open, and you might learn something.
Did you?
Occasionally. Kept my mouth shut, my eyes open. I didn't learn much though, right?
Yeah, right. Okay. Well,
too busy up here. But yeah, absolutely. And this is something I tell my clients. I'm an open book, and I just say how it is. But I used to laugh at people that crate train their dogs. I go, people crate train their dogs in the house, and I go, oh, look at these do-gooders. Look at these yuppies. Like, look, bloody greenies. And then earlier this year, I realized I'm an absolute hypocrite because I've crate trained my dogs, and I do every day. Because if they're not with me, they're in the back of my ute or they're in their kennel. And how's that any different?
Yeah.
They're there learning to be bored.
Yeah, and it's so important too. Like you see the disasters, or disaster centers set up over in the States and things, and there's like hundreds of dogs in crates because they can't put them anywhere else. Like if your dog's not crate trained, well, what are you going to do?
Well, that's right. And then I get on the flip side. Oh, they're working dogs and they need to be running around and whatever. And I go, I build enough desire in my dogs, and a lot of them have it already genetically, and that's part of why I go down the lines I do. That if my dogs were running around, they're going to get themselves in mischief.
Yeah.
And if something happens to somebody else's stock and somebody else's place, my dog's going to get the first ones to be blamed. So my dog's being in their kennels is the safest option for them.
Yeah.
Nikki West has asked, what's your perspective on communal feeding and kennel sharing versus feeding and kenneling separate?
I love communal feeding.
Why?
I really do. Kind of so the whole pack's together. However, so like for example, I might put a bucket of biscuits down here in the back concrete here and have 12 dogs dropped and go, okay, take. And that's all sweet because I like to see them eat together and be together, and that way, because they're spending a lot of time together. So if something comes in and growls, I'm the only one that growls in my pack. Hey, move out. If that dog comes in again, well, if that dog's too eager to pick a fight, it's not hungry enough, so I'll put it away. All right. However, I do really like to also feed my dogs individually because then they can work for their tucker. So one, I can monitor how much they eat, but two is I actually make my dogs work for their dinner every night. So it might be a case of in all of our kennels, there's bedding at the back. So, or if I had a dog tethered up, like so on a chain, and there's a kennel, it might be I go in, open the door, I tell my dogs to go away before I open the kennel. So they're already in the bedding area. And they'll be come, away, come, and it might be sit, away, come, drop, away. Then I'll put the food down, and it'll be come, away, come, away, come. So effectively, they're working for their tucker, and it's just another level of control, And I've always done that. And actually, I was having a chat with, it was unfortunate we couldn't speak to him last week with the internet issues with Milo a few months ago. And he spoke about if you control in survival, you pretty much can shape the instinct of anything. And I started to really think about that. I was like, wait a minute, I actually do that, but I never actually identified that I did it. Because I know that if I've got a warm bed, a full belly, and I know I'm safe, I sleep really well. That's all really that's important to a dog, right? They don't care what car you drive, how big your house is, how much jewelry you have, or how big your bank account is. Right? They're just all about the moment and survival and where they sit in their pack and how quick they can get to the top if they want to get there, and how much space they accumulate around them. So, to answer Nikki's question, I actually like a mix of it.
Another part she's asked is actual sharing of kennels. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so over Christmas here, we're going to have way too many dogs. So there's going to be a stack of dogs here. So most of our dogs will be sharing kennels.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with that. I'm not one of these people that I keep putting. So if I've got say, kennel, a 3-bay kennel over there, and I've got to have 6 dogs in it, I'll mix those dogs up. So I'll put dogs with bitches, bitches with dogs, and I'll always swap it every night so that no one starts to think that they own that.
Yeah.
And anyone can be shifted at any time.
Yeah.
So that's our dogs. Basically, most of the time they have their own kennels, but we will move them around as we need to, as well.
Yeah.
What are you laughing about?
Sorry, just a question that's come through.
Come on.
Nat said, "Is that the same way you shape Nat's behaviour by controlling your survival?"
No. So if you ever watch no, I use classical conditioning on Natalie. So anyone that wants classical conditioning, just watch the YouTube with The Big Bang Theory, where Sheldon gives Penny chocolates every time she does something right.
I reckon
That's
that might
basically
shoe,
what I do.
I reckon that shoe might be on the other foot, in all
Yeah, I
honesty.
think so too.
I cooked dinner tonight, did I not?
Well, she's the one
Yeah,
that
exactly.
keeps feeding me the chocolates. He's got the German Shepherd about to come inside and everything.
And I was like real anti-dogs inside, and now I'm just absolutely turning into a marshmallow.
So Danny Kerr has asked, what does your training look like leading up to a trial? And is it different for, say, your fully broken dog like Mo compared to others that you just starting to trial, or do you have that same sort of conditioning pre-trial?
My training before a trial. So most of what I'll do, I'll show them stock, and obviously most of what I'll do is in the paddock. I very rarely, if I'm going to go to a yard trial, I'll very rarely just go and just hound around a yard trial. So most of what I'll do is just work them in the paddock just to knock the edge off them. Like Laura said before, I don't have the luxury here of I'm not working on a property all the time, but I've still got dogs that are bred exactly the same as these people that do. So imagine, sorry, we've been joined by Scarlett, the German Shepherd here. So those dogs that are going to work, I think they can get the edge knocked off them. Yeah. Where when we've got dogs bred the same with the same desire and motivation, we've got to find a way to knock that edge off. So for me, it might be just working dogs in the paddock, basically just keep touching stock across the paddock. So like casting them out, having them come. If they do something good, they'll get if they cast out well, they'll get the sheep. If not, I'll keep the reward off them. Until you cast good, you're not going to get the sheep. Let them touch stock a few times. And if it's a dog that I think is maybe lacking in backing, I might do a bit of backing in the race before a trial. Maybe put them around my yard trial once, and that's about it.
So you're saying you would 9 out of 10 times train a young dog the same as something like Mo before a trial?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I don't do anything different. If it's a dog that I know is maybe showing a bit too eager to come in on stock and always pushing the bubble, I might just stop it a bit more and get it to touch stock even more. Just to go, hey, you don't need to be up and. But yeah, I don't train a young dog any different to an older dog for a trial. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
What do you like about trialing?
Oh, the dribble.
The dribble.
The dribble. Oh, it's all about the dribble. the camaraderie, right? Sorry?
Who's dribble in particular?
Oh, no, won't go there. Yeah, just the camaraderie, right? The mateship. Just being able to go anywhere. And like I've already said, I hate talking. So being able just to go and have a chat to anyone. And, I've made some great mates trialing. And that's even led, like, you spoke earlier about, like, training and mentors. Like, that's even offered people just going, hey, come and spend a day here.
Yeah.
Going to go shearing here, come spend a day with us. Or we're going to crutch, come and help here or whatnot. So, so... And then you just get to know people on a more deeper level again. So I suppose it's just the camaraderie and getting. I suppose I'm a people's people person, kind of like, I don't know how to say that, but what I said, but just better. Yeah. Just the people.
Yeah. So how do you feel your dogs and say the community have helped you in your journey? In the past sort of 5-10 years, so to speak.
Yeah, the ex-wife probably wouldn't have liked it too much because I spent too much time with the dogs. But the people in the trialing community, Like shit, if I didn't get my working dog into the working dogs, I would never have met Nat, you know. And then people like this bullfed sitting next to me, her and her mum. The bullfed I'm looking at on the computer right there as well. You know, I would have met great people that were, when I was in a moment of need, were there for me as well. You know, like when everything was up in the air for myself, they would have, you know, a lot of my best mates I've known since school didn't know what was going on with me. You know, even like obviously there's no secret there that we are a split household here, right? Didn't know that the ex-wife and I had split, right? But I had enough confidence in a lot of people around me that I didn't know as long as some of my childhood friends that really helped me with that, right? And getting through those moments and just keeping me occupied. So yeah, I'm forever grateful for not just the sport, but the mates I've met along the way.
Yeah, it's a pretty special community, I reckon.
Oh, absolutely.
If someone's having a tough time, everyone sort of just bounce together and
yeah. Oh, we'll look at that. Nathan Caith in Cowra earlier this year, where he organised that trial for Mackenzie. You know, like their people came from all over the state for that.
Come from Victoria for that.
Victoria. Like, I met some fantastic. I'd never met Dale Thompson there like before, and I met him down there, and Brock, and people like you might see on Facebook or your Facebook friends, and you get to talk to me like, oh, they're even better in person. You know, like you know. So for people to say that trialing is, it's the people that knock it, they probably want to get involved just to see where you can actually go, not even just about your dogs, just the people you meet.
Yeah. And sorry, Laura.
No, it's all right.
Right. I was just going to say, like, Dale, had his hair done by Harper, my little one, and David and Sarah's daughter, like just before he went in and won with Jake in the Open at Carcoar, and it just goes to show, like, to me, everybody embraces like the youth as well. Like, he could have quite easily turned around and said, "Nah, I don't want it," but must have just been his lucky charm or something. I don't know.
I think he's just trying to keep him away from the moustache, to be honest. But I actually thought that was Lloyd.
Yeah, it was. It was, but yeah, just bit of doppelganger there.
Nah, and you're right, mate. You know, that was like so obviously I jumped on board when the opportunity came up to help with the trial here in Sydney. And one of the first things we did there was introduce juniors. And I would say back, I can't remember if it was 2019 now or 20. Anyways, mate, the highlight of the weekend for me, and I didn't have a bad weekend, to be honest. I tried, my dogs went well, but the highlight of me was not just watching my kids, but watching all the kids run their dogs. Like, it was just awesome, And even this year, I judged the juniors there, and just watching, especially Benny Costa's little two. Like, it's so competitive. I don't think they talked with each other for 10 minutes afterwards, right? But just to watch
the whole trip home, I reckon. Benny would have had a fun trip.
It would have. Well, actually, they done better. They scored better than he did, so I bet they would have rubbed that in too. But not just his kids. Like, I think where there was 3 entries, and I think we ended up running
8 or 10 kids.
I think 8 or 10 kids on the day ended up running. That's just awesome to see, right? Like I'm actually glad you highlighted that, Nick, because it really does embrace. And I can't talk for any of the other states or any other of the other codes, but as far as New South Wales Yard Dog Association goes, they really embrace the young kids. And I'm not even talking like some of these kids are like they're not juniors where you consider 15 years old. We're talking like 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like 6-year-olds.
Brody's daughter's 3.
Well, there you go.
And went out there with Loz. So yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, mate, because that's what yard trialing's all about, right? It's a community. It's a family away from your family, And yes, it's competitive at times, and people bicker and argue, but you know what? What family doesn't?
Yeah, you're right.
When something has to happen for a good cause, everyone pitches in, and that's what a good community or a village is all about, right?
Yeah.
So we always ask the question, as we do, real work dogs don't make trial dogs and vice versa. But I'm going to put a different spin on that and say, how do your dogs handle going to real work on a property when you get the opportunity to? How do they handle that being trained not to trial, but the basis of your training is at the end of the game, you trial more than you do real work.
Absolutely.
So how do your dogs then handle that?
Well, the foundations aren't any different, like your starting blocks, right? Like we get people here all the time. I go, if you got a call off on your dog, a stop, a clockwise and anti-clockwise, it's ready to take the work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we get that on our dogs here. And yeah, I've got a few of the buttons, you know, the walk in, the reverse, the bark on command, bite on command. They're all party tricks at the end of the day. They're cool, right? But I suppose if you get those foundations right, when it's time to take your dog to work, yeah, it might get a bit lost to start with. But I like to think if you spent the time in getting a lot of those foundations right, and you've got something that's relatively bred well, after the edge is knocked off it and it gets the concept of what you're trying to do, it can kind of pull it together.
Yeah.
Right? It might not be the prettiest to start with, and you know what? If you're working with someone else that's got a 5-year-old dog out there, it shouldn't be as pretty as that.
Yeah.
Like that, for me to expect that's unfair to that dog.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think if you get the foundation right, and then you can look past those little mishaps to start with. Like they might see a massive mob and run through them. We go, well, come back here, mate. That's not good enough. Let's do this again, right? And then you get through, and you know, by the end of the day, they normally got sore feet. You know, which is obviously really does help because you can't beat miles. Let's be honest. Like miles is what makes dogs like the Olympic swimmers don't get good watching other people swim on TV, right? They're in the pool. They're doing the miles. But as long as it's got that attitude that it wants to work with you, I think you can look past those little mistakes, and you know maybe by lunchtime have something that's you're proud to go, hey, that's my dog out there working.
Yeah.
And of course, you know they're going to learn every day, so they're only going to get better, right?
Yeah, and do you think that or how do you then prepare if you know you're going away for a week working? You know, we say Fozzie or someone. Do you try and prep your dogs fitness wise and run them a fair bit, or do you just go bugger them? They'll be worn out the first day. They'll be a bit fit in the second, and then
let them go hard and gas out, and then let them watch everything else work, and then eventually they're gonna have to pull themselves up and work wise, right?
Yeah.
So let them gas themselves out. Make sure there's no carnage though. Obviously, you got to be nice and fair on your stock, all right? Because like it's all about your stock at the end of the day. Because we're not working dogs, we're working stock.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the be all and end all. Right? Make sure that's all going good. And if they're gassing out a bit early on, so be it, right? Normally you'd find, like when I went on that 4 weeks there hitchhiking around, my dogs come back using their brains, and I think that actually helped seeing all different types of stock over that time as well. We weren't just on one place as well, right? I think they really got a lot of work under their belts from that. So I think that's why a lot of contractors do really well. But yeah, no, to answer your question, no, I don't. I don't do anything special, mate. I just ask them to have a go.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And you've been breeding a few dogs.
I have.
What do you enjoy about the breeding?
No different to that hunting dog I mentioned earlier, where you have that 8-week-old pup and then that 10, 12-month-old pup jumping off of you, right? On a little scent that's going through a million different scents in the air. I enjoy having that pup from day to birth, like from when it's born, and then watching it develop and just learning from it, right? And just taking it all under the belt, right? And no, they don't all end up champions. Well, very, very few do, right? It depends what you classify as a champion, right? Because everyone's got a champion at home. And everyone should have a champion at home, because if they don't, they should probably reconsider what they're doing and how they're doing it. But yeah, I suppose just watching that young dog develop, like Mo, for example, watching that dog just develop and go through the ranks, and then take him out to different places and working and become a maiden dog and novice dog, and how many times that I've had him in different scenarios on different types of stock, and he just keeps at it and having a go for me.
Yeah.
That's what I love about watching my dogs.
Yeah. And what are you sort of not breeding for? Because I guess you sort of answered that, but what are you looking for before joining dogs?
Something I like.
Yeah.
And I suppose first of all and be all, like, I got young kids, so I can have something that I absolutely love its work, but if its nature and temperament's off, I won't breed from it. I can't do that, and I think that's pretty irresponsible to do so. So nature and temperament, number one, and something I like and has a good attitude, and just I like something with a bit of. I do like something with a bit of style, but I also like something that wants to come forward before it wants to go sideways.
Yeah. Like you talked to me a bit about you want something with a bit of direct strength. It can walk straight in and hold itself, kind of thing. That's still what you're thinking, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can teach most things to go sideways, but you can't teach them to come forwards with will and determination, right? Like, you can enhance it, but I don't think you can really train a dog to do it with actual proper intent, I suppose, is what I'm saying, where I'm going.
Yeah, I know what you mean. When like when you breed a litter, do you pick your pup on a multitude of traits, or do you sort of pick your pup on, like, that some people go the first one out of the kennel all the time, or just little quirks? Like, what's your quirk?
Yeah, so we only really breed a litter when we want something for ourselves, and most of the time I'm really picky on it. And I used to always pick the one that I become matey with. But I was finding that those ones, just when I started to train them, didn't take me. So I've kind of went away, and I picked Mo because he was the run to the litter. But Dave Motley, he's actually another mentor. I didn't mention him earlier. He's got this saying, I can't exactly what it is, but basically you're safe with an average. So I just try and pick now something in the middle, something that stands out and you like it, but it's average, right? It's not the one that's all over you, and it's not the one that doesn't want to be near you to start with, which I suppose not many of them don't want to be near you because we spend a lot of time with them. But pick that pup in the middle there, and if it's anything like the parents that you're breeding because you obviously like them, you shouldn't go too wrong.
Yeah, that's cool. Good advice.
What about opinion of dog over, like, percentage-wise of what you see in your pups?
My pups, 100%, I've noticed that nature and temperament straight after my bitches. I've noticed that. I think it plays a big part in there, and they're with the bitch a lot longer than they're around the dog, right? Like, they might not even ever see their father really, unless you have them here. They might see them when they get a bit older and they're interacting. So for nature and temperament, I think the bitch has a bit of more of a part to play. In workability, I think it's pretty mixed, and it's spread between the two. But I think a bitch's nature and temperament has a lot to do with the development of a pup.
Yeah. And what about advice of someone else picking their first pup or dog?
Get someone else to do it for you. Just something you like. Because if you don't like it, you're not going to spend time with it.
Yeah.
And you have to spend the time with it.
Yeah. And like, do you have a color preference? Are you going to stick to your black and tans a bit now, or?
Not really.
You got a rainbow.
I got a last week I had a rainbow. I had a black and tans, a yellow dog, I got red and tan dogs. I got a blue or fawn and tan dog. I do like my black and tans.
You've even got a white and black.
white and black. I do. I've got the magpie as well. But yeah, no, I do like, and I really like her. She's a real cool little pup. Yeah, I do like my black and tans. But end of the day, I don't really have too much of a preference now. Like, a good dog's a good dog, right?
Yeah, exactly. What age do you start doing anything with your pups on stock, and then how do you put some foundation of a calm and a sit and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I might show my pup stock at 8 weeks old. And I've got no expectation. You know, I used to have all the expectation and, oh, look at this and look at that. And, you know, but you can get gazumped there pretty quickly. So I have no expectation anymore. I just put them on, show them a bit until they're like maybe 4 months old. I'm just showing them stock for, 3 or 4 minutes, maybe once a fortnight, if that. Whenever I get a chance, really, whenever the sheep are in the yards and I've got nothing, I might have a couple of minutes spare. And then from now, so I've got a pup here, that collie pup I mentioned before. She's 4 months old. And today is just shaping her, right? So just using my body language here to clockwise and anti-clockwise and holding her out there and sticking with my sheep to frustrate her to get a stop. And the only thing I actually put on her is a recall. So I'll clip her up and go, that'll do. And I'll do that till she's about, depends on her mental maturity, but about 6 to 8 months. And when I can just move my shoulders and she goes clockwise and anti-clockwise. And I try to work the front of a dog, not the back of a dog, so I don't push a dog from behind. I like to, what Robert Cox refers to as pulling a dog. So I like to work a dog like that, so that way there's minimal pressure. So I hate applying pressure to any animal. Even when I do my rehabilitation stuff, we're always doing everything with as least pressure as possible. Otherwise, if you've done it with more pressure, you're not going to build a rapport. And then I suppose, at 6 to 8 months, when I can see that dog's really wants to learn a bit more and can take a bit of heat. I'll start to put my word commands to my actions, and then I might start using it in the back of a pen and back in a race and little things like that, and just building confidence. Always trying to show them as many heads on stock rather than backsides, so they were always turning stock or turning sheep and building confidence.
Yep.
Just always building them up and short stints.
Yeah. Question here from Nikki West. She's asked, when teaching a pup to back, what age do you start? Also, does this depend on the age and development stage? Do you think you can start too early and damage joints?
I think you can start too early and damage confidence 100% if it not all goes to plan. Damage joints. I don't like to see young dogs jumping off big heights early. Like this 4-month-old pup I've got now, I don't let her jump off the back of the ute. I pick her up and put her on the ute, pick her up and take her off the ute. But, if I've got sheep in the race, I'll pick her up and put her on their backs just to build a bit of confidence and get her comfortable there. Yeah. But I'm not going to ask her to try and jump up, and I definitely don't want her to get hurt. So, that 4-month-old mark where, they might just be in the middle of teething and they're already a bit cocky, they're already getting a bit confident. I'll get them in there and put them on their backs, but I'm not putting them in a situation they can get hurt at all. No.
Yeah.
What's your preference of stock? Like in terms of, would you prefer to be working merinos or crossbred ewes in a trial situation, and why?
I like the anything touchy in a trial, and that's because I'm not being cocky, but most of the time I have pretty good control on my dogs. So if I can keep them off, and I'll call it point and shoot trialing, where if I point my dog here, the sheep shoot that way, and if I point my dog here, they shoot the other way. So I think you have to have good control on a lot of your dogs for that. But you also need to have a dog that's got good, that's got a bit of grip and good cover, which I like a dog that's got a bit of grip and cover. So yeah, I like those little pingy ones, the ones that normally steal points, because they're the ones I tend to normally do better on. Or I think when you have something that's heavier stock, it's anyone's ball game, but more so those dogs with a lot of presence are going to do better. But you've probably got more dogs achieving more in those trials. Where when you got pingy sheep, you can really see the difference in the scores.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
What's probably your you do a bit of everything, but what's probably your favorite form of trialing?
Oh, utility trialing.
Yeah.
Utility trialing, or the all round.
Yeah.
Stuff like the USD, SSD stuff. And my dogs see bugger all cattle, but just being able to put them in and have a crack. And I don't do many 3 sheep trials because I don't have the time yet. I'm not semi-retired. I'd love to do more of those. I really, really enjoy them, but I just can't get the time to do them. But yeah, I love those utility all around style trials.
Yeah.
Yeah, the all round stuff's cool. And I think like Nathan is hoping he might run another one next year in Cowra, and the boys down south are doing another SSD again. So you can head down to
that. That's a kid week, so I'll have to see how I can try and sort that out.
It's an awesome holiday for him, otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Thank you for letting shape out.
Favorite movie and everything. You can take him to the heart.
So I would love to get down there. Yeah, 100%. And support it, right? Well, this will be the second year going. You've got a couple of fantastic blokes running that trial, and I'm sure they've got a fantastic committee behind them as well.
Oh, and to be running the Australian utility, not utility, the National Kelping and the Australian Yard all in the same week.
Oh, it'd be fantastic, all right?
They've got to have an awesome committee.
And even putting some face to names, like I said, I hate meeting people, right? So, just getting out and being able to have a gas bag with different people that you might not ever get the opportunity to meet it in face to face again would be fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. What are your thoughts on, behaviours of some people? We're not going to talk anyone in particular, but do we on Facebook and things? Do you see that there's a bit too much of a culture knocking people down, or do you see the culture is there that we are all trying to build ourselves up? Like, what's your view there?
Yeah, look, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, right? And that's okay. I think we just have to respect other people's opinions. But in saying that as well, if you're going to put stuff up on social media, be prepared to hear the negative as much as you're going to hear the positive. But look at the positives out of the negatives as well. Right? I'm sure you can take, if someone was to bag out something on Facebook for something you've done, I'm sure you can take a positive away from that. And maybe do something different in the future. Or if you don't want to do it different, don't do it different. But take it on board, because not everyone likes vanilla flavor, right? So some other people are going to have different opinions, and take it on board. Just go, okay, that's fine. That's okay. Yeah. You don't agree with that, that's no problem. Just don't take it personal. Yeah,
cool.
And saying that as well, sorry to add, people shouldn't make things personal.
Yeah.
It's all right not to take things personal, but other people on the other end shouldn't make things personal either. Just give your opinion on what you've seen, because it's out there for people to comment on. If you've put something up there, you've put it out there for people to look at. So you're going to have to take the good with the bad. But there's no need to make it personal.
Yep.
And while we're on that you go, Nick.
No, you're right.
I was just going to say, what are your thoughts on crossing and inside flanks in a trial?
Oh, the more crosses, the better. I actually, when I judged at Sydney the other day in a novice, I said, if you can get your dog to cross you anywhere in here, ask it to cross you, not it just cross. I wish I could give you extra points for it, because what a waste of time calling a dog behind you to do something. Yeah. The more crosses, the better. If they're practical, right? I'm not saying some loopy cross off the cast, that's silly. Right?
Yeah.
But if you're coming out of a drench race or a draft and the sheep are gone back behind you, why should your dog have to loop back around you to go through? If the fastest way between 2 points is a straight line, right? Why are we gonna send our dogs around to like just get them to cut straight through? And like we talk about having the dog on the job. Well, by the time it cuts around, those sheep might have gone 3 or 4 meters past where they should be going forward for the next obstacle. Send that dog, get that dog to cross you and hold them up. 100%.
Yeah, so like, and that's, I guess that's the thing. You know, if they go back around you, you're losing course points. So if your dog crosses you and you keep them on course, well, you don't lose course points. So that was a good thing. If they keep going off course and it wasn't effective, well, you're still going to lose points for your course points. So take them there, like
100%. You're going to ask me about my biggest hate after that?
Yeah, I was actually.
Flow. I can't stand people camping at obstacles. Like, go forward. Keep things moving forward. I can't stand no flow. Make things happen. Just keep going. You know, I was at a 3 sheep trial once, and people were getting to the bridge, and I was finishing the trial, and people were getting to the bridge and getting a higher score than me. And I didn't really understand it. And I was like, what's going on here? And someone advised me that if I just camped in front of that bridge, that I wouldn't lose the points, that I might have lost trying to actually create the flow to get around. And it wasn't an affiliated trial or anything, and that's okay. And that's the rules. That's no dramas. I don't have a problem with that. But I didn't know it at the time. But I was just like blown away how you can reward not trying to finish a course. So
yeah,
lack of flow.
But isn't that the same as, dare I say it, at Carcoar on the weekend? You could have put cattle through the obstacles and kept them flowing, but because you have to be there before the cattle go through, if they go through, you've got to bash them back, and so you're restricting flow. And yeah, like I actually think the amount of completions at that course last week would have been quite high if you had been allowed flow.
So you're saying you had to rework the obstacle even though the cattle went through and you weren't in the ring?
If the first beats you through, if it goes through the obstacle before you're at the peg, you have to rework that obstacle. Yeah,
right. I can't comment on that, and on 3 sheep. So I just have a crack. I don't know the rules. Good enough. I just get out there and do whatever. But I know in utility trialing, if they get through the obstacle, all you have to do is step in your ring and keep going. And I consider that good work. And if you camp in front of an obstacle and without anything happening, the judge's clicker, he's getting rapid fire on that clicker. And he should, or she.
And so it should.
Like, 100%. That's probably my biggest frustration when you see someone trying to get through, and they're actually disadvantaged by someone that's happy just to stand there.
Yeah, just the sit and wait game.
Yeah.
So other than those 2 things, is there anything you'd like to see change in trialing? And you know, you compete in yard trialing mostly. So in that?
I think they're going all right. I'm pretty good. And I don't know, I probably don't deserve I haven't been around long enough to have a valid opinion, to be honest.
But sometimes a fresh outside opinion is always good.
I think it was Mary McCrabb we interviewed, and she talked about like they used to simulate like foot baths or a creek or something like that, like a little obstacle for water. I think something like that's cool as well. I don't know how you'd bring that into a yard trial. Maybe you could do it in an outside trial. I know I don't even necessarily mean a 3 sheep or a utility trial. Kind of, I might maybe set up like that. Maybe more like a farm trial setup where you could do that stuff. I remember when I first started trialing, I went down to Tony Melville, ran a trial down at the Sydney Uni there for the I think it was a coolie rescue, and that was fantastic. Actually, Lauren judged that. One of my mates beat me by 18 seconds, so I ended up coming third, not second. But that's all right, Paul. I'll forgive you for that. But that was great because that simulated real work, right? We were moving sheep from pen to pen, trying to get them through obstacles, and it finished with putting them in a shearing shed, like penning them up.
Yeah, wow.
Right, and there was a gap, there was a bridge, there was a whole heap of different aspects. That's right, and that was really cool. But we don't really see many of them anymore.
Well, I know you're pretty keen to do one of the Oz catalog challenges, like Tony McCallum's trials,
100%.
and that is that's quite practical. Like they've got not all of them, but depending on the property that they go to, you can have a creek crossing or wet muddy gateways and all sorts of things, blind casts. So, do you think that's where you'd really like to see yourself heading in terms of trialing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to have a dog good enough to compete with those guys and girls that do those trials. Would I have a crack at it now? Yeah, 100%. If I didn't have a dog that had a stick halfway through his chest, I'd love to get out and do that. And might not be the greatest at it, but we'll get out and have a crack and see what it's all about. And that's why I suppose been speaking with you about wanting those dogs that with a little bit less eye that want to come forward more, so I can try and attempt some trials like that. And it's not even about the winning or losing or whatever. It's just the having a go, right? It's just trying to push myself as a handler to see where me and my team could ultimately ever end up, what we can achieve together.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
If you could spend a day in the life of any trainer or handler, past or present, who would it be?
Day as them or with them?
As them. So if you could fill, say, Benny Costa's shoes, would you do it?
I'd fill his shoes. I don't know about filling his shorts or his shirt. Oh, there's so many out there. Yeah, someone would probably be like that. Would probably be Chris Stapleton. So I've never seen him flip his top. I've never seen him lose his cool. And he's someone's got a lot of experience and he's works every day. So work as them. Yeah, because I'd like to see what happens behind closed doors to see if he actually that cool all the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I just love the way he handles a dog.
He's pretty softly spoken, isn't he?
Oh, he's a gentleman. He's always given me time. I if I've got questions, he's always asked, and he's always given me time. But yeah, he's just a cool cucumber, right? I've never seen him raise his voice at one of his dogs before, right? And there's so many good handlers out there, and that's a pretty hard question to actually answer on the spot like that. So I'm sure I'm going to change my mind 16 times in the next 2 days. But yeah, I suppose he'd be one I'd really like to. Yeah.
What about spend a day or a week with?
Oh, I've been pretty fortunate to spend some time with a lot of people.
Someone that you haven't spent time with.
Someone I haven't spent time with. Oh, probably a big Gaz dog, big Gary White. I've spent some time trying to change his mind and supporting a shit football team. Spent some time, and he's obviously a legend at what he does. He's been doing it for a long time. He's been doing it since a kid. His dad was really good at it as well. So yeah, probably Gaz. Gaz is probably someone I haven't spent time with, and I'd like to.
Yeah. Throughout Hooked on Hounds and your travels with your dogs, is there something that you see a lot of people struggle with, and how do you think they can improve it?
There's two things that stick in my mind there. One is something Robert Cox said to me a long time ago, and the other one's something Nathan Cafe actually said on our first interview. Robert Cox said people are too busy working their dog and not their stock.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I think, and that's why I'm always into people here, like, stop working your dog, work the stock. Just think about where the stock need to be, and then if your dog's not there already, then do it. Then ask him to be there or her to be there. And the other thing Nathan Cave mentioned is timing.
Mm-hmm.
Timing is crucial. Like timing is everything in life, really, isn't it? You know, like watching this movie at the moment on binge there called Upright, and one of the lady made a comment like after a car accident. She goes, a minute earlier, you could hit someone else. A minute later, something else could have happened, but we would never have met. And they've formed this awesome relationship, right? Because life's about timing.
Yeah.
And it's no different with trialing, right? It's all about timing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any more questions for Nick?
Yeah, I've got one before we do our who would you fight. How important is mindset to you, both in your daily routine and then when it comes to your dogs, your livestock, and your kids too?
100%, right? The moment you start to doubt yourself, you will start to actually doubt yourself, right? So keeping a positive mindset is really important. I can do this. This is simple. This is fun. This is easy, right? Like, and just go down that path. Laura here could tell you how many times we've maybe spent time with our dogs before coming up to a trial, and I go, I'm going to win that trial. And she goes, you're an idiot. And I've come away, and I'm not gloating at all here, right? But I'm just in that mindset. You know that was it Ocean's 13 where they kept giving, they had to get a guy to pick a number or something, like a player with a gamble, and they kept showing this guy the number everywhere. So going into the lifts and how many flowers were delivered, it was that number of flowers and everything. It's all about building.
It's so off topic, but I watched a Shark Tank the other day come up on my thing, and it was one of the sharks saw this brand of, like, it was like an Uber, but not Uber. And she'd seen him before because the old mate's wife had seen that she was in the area where they were working. So they put all 20 of their cars out onto the streets. So she saw it like 100 times. That's the only time she'd ever seen him. Yeah. But it's exactly mindset. Like the way the brain works is unbelievable.
Yeah. So always going out with a positive outlook on things and going, look, this is simple. Like, put it this way, I mentioned one of my dream jobs before being a water skiing instructor. I was the worst water skier ever, to the fact that when I was bought my first water ski, I was given a first aid kit with it. I was terrible. I was terrible, right? And I could barely get up on two skis, let alone one. Anyways, I mastered two skis and I could not get up on one. And I'd be in my lounge room on my ski practicing, rocking to get up. And I remember going that weekend and I just went, I'm going to just rock up like this and I'm going to go. And I got off that on the boat, get in the water, and I just went up, and people were like, wow, you've been practicing? I went, no. Well, didn't tell them I was rocking the floor in my lounge room, right? But it was in my head that this is the technique I'm going to use. And, I'm the kind of person that if I ever go at something, I get fairly competitive at it. And not to be the best, but to borrow the best, but just to kind of have a proper crack. And believing in yourself and is a massive part of that.
Yeah. So what does success look like to you then in a trial? I mean, like, do you go and define success before you walk out? And is that winning, or is that getting the pen, or does it vary between dogs?
It probably varies a bit between my dogs. Success for me is being consistent. So if I'm consistently making finals or consistently just not making finals, but my dogs are giving me everything, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, cool.
That's how I'm happy with the trial if everyone's giving me their best and I'm consistent. If my dogs are off 1 week and I'm in totally and myself as well, but then I'm like, all right, well, where to go wrong? And I'm not going to come home and drill on it, but I'm going to go, okay, well, next time I'll maybe got to approach things a little bit differently.
Yeah. Yep.
I just want to be consistent.
There's a question here from Tristan Lyons. He's asked, what's one bit of advice you've been given or learnt that you wish you knew when you were training your first working dog?
roll of smoke. Right, like just chill out a bit. Like train the dog in front of you, not what you want it to be, but what's in front of you, and make it the best version of it can be, not what you want to turn it into.
Yeah.
And just chill out. Just don't rush things all the time. Just chill out. And I think that's a massive thing today. I think everyone's looking for something these days rather than turn what's in front of them into something they had or something that somebody else has, rather than the best version of what it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So is it the pointy end of the night where we get to ask that question?
Yeah.
Well, it's up to you guys.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you got to pick the best question.
Well, I really, really liked Nikki's question about the communal feeding versus feeding individually.
Yeah. Rightio. Well, I've got Nikki's details, so yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
thanks,
cool.
Enduro. Nick's got a question for you instead of my duck question.
Oh, here we
So
go.
we've altered it. Would you rather take on one gnat the size of Jacob Ryan or one Jacob Ryan the size of Nat?
Oh. Are we talking a Jacob Ryan that's been on the drink or not on the drink? Because if it was one that's been on the drink and Jacob's a great mate of mine, but I couldn't handle the dribble, a Jacob the size of Nat. So I would take on one Nat the size of Jacob Ryan because she wouldn't be able to put me in as big a German headlocks as she does now. There'd be little headlocks and it'd be like more like, because I'm only tiny, it'd be like little people wrestling. So I'll roll with that one.
Yeah, nice.
Well, I was just going to say thank you, everyone, for jumping on tonight. We did have a bit of a technical issue there for a few minutes, but we got it all sorted. And Nick, thank you so much for jumping on with me. And you know, it's hard to ask someone questions when you already know a lot of the answers. So thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. I had heaps of fun and look forward to doing it next week for you.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
Could be, mate. No, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right. And everyone, please remember, we learn every day, and the day we stop learning from each other will be a sad day.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Good. Sounds better from you.
No, it doesn't. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah.